guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled, "Neighbors Robbed My Home and Stole My Car. I busted them with my surveillance camera." Before I get into the details of what happened to me, I want to give everyone reading a very important piece of advice. Security for your home is a must, especially if you are going far away or away for a long period of time. Please do not put blind trust in someone spotting a robbery and taking care of it for you. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's get into what happened to me and caused me to have to make that announcement to everyone. I've read a bunch of these stories and know that when it comes to bad neighbors, things usually start out with saying how we have been in a feud or how they have been no good and nasty. This is going to be a little bit different though, because the couple that lived next door to us were extremely nice and friendly. Not only have we never had an issue with them before, but every time we crossed paths it would always be an incredibly nice conversation. Once they went away for the weekend and we were even the ones they asked to collect their mail for them. So, there were no red flags that I could see of what was going to happen with them. Honestly, if we were only going away for a few days, I probably would have asked them to get our mail as well instead of having it stopped at the post office because we were going away for 2 weeks. We did ask them to just keep an eye on the place, which they agreed to. We were going 2,000 miles away, which for those who are bad with distance is almost across the entire United States of America. Or for people in Europe, roughly the distance from Spain to the Ukraine. Bottom line is that it was very far away. Now with that kind of distance we were going to fly, so our car was left at the house tucked away in the driveway. We do have a garage, but it is small and currently filled with stuff, which is why the car wasn't put in there. It's a safe neighborhood though, and people do this all the time. What nobody knew though was that I had purchased a camera that keeps track of the front door so we can see if anyone was leaving packages and whatnot. What we didn't expect was an alert that someone was at the door, to then see both of the neighbors standing on our porch and picking the lock to the house. They got in and soon were looting the place, which I saw from other cameras we had in the house, and the outdoor camera even showed that they drove away in our car. I have no idea how they managed to do all of this in broad daylight with nobody saying so much as a word. I honestly had no idea what to do because I was so far from home, but our place was being robbed and we couldn't do anything about it. At this point I was so mad that I couldn't think straight, and once my wife calmed me down she told me that she called the local police for our area and told them what was going on. It was a little difficult communicating with them and getting them the footage of the robbery taking place, but with clear images of it being our neighbors doing it, we were hoping that they would get caught rather quickly. The footage was on our phones though, and there was no secure way to send it to them that would make it valid evidence. So, we ended up leaving a few days early, and instead of going to our house we went straight to the station and spoke to the officers that we had been talking to over the phone up until then. From there we could finally show them the footage of the break-in and them driving away in our car. They were going to leave right away to arrest them, and we hitched a ride and couldn't wait to see the look on their faces that they were caught. Obviously they tried denying it and telling the officers that they were in our house because we asked them to look after it. They thought someone called the cops because they were seen going in and wanted to pretend like they had a key. It wasn't until they saw me and my wife standing there that they knew that story wasn't going to hold up. They didn't understand why we were back so early, but they were insisting that we told them they could borrow the car while we were away and that they could borrow things from our house. They were saying that they had no proof anything was stolen and that none of it would hold up in court. I know that keeping it a secret would be better for the defense, but I couldn't help but pointing to my front door and telling the neighbors to smile for the camera. The husband looked terrified that we now had him on camera robbing us of our belongings. When it got to court, and we all watched the video, the couple did not want to take this to trial because they knew they would have been caught. So, they asked for the charges to be dropped if everything that they stole was returned or replaced. We knew that was all we would get if it went to trial anyway, so we agreed without having to go through all the hassle of fighting them for it. The car was luckily just being held at one of their friends' houses and was in the exact same condition that they took it in. The stuff from the house though was another story because they had apparently gone and sold most of it. They took paintings off of our walls and even sold my guitar. My wife's jewelry was taken and a few of my fancy ties. That stuff had to be negotiated on what the actual cost of some of the stuff was due to sentimental value, and they ended up having to give us a very big payout. It was about $30,000, and with that we were able to replace everything that they had stolen from us. The only thing that couldn't be replaced was the trust and friendship that we had with them, because unfortunately they still are our neighbors. We have to deal with knowing that they are still living right next to us, and honestly it feels a little eerie. Since they had no criminal history, they were let off with just some community service. They won't look us in the eye anymore, and that is fine by me, but we are a little worried about leaving again. We are thinking of getting a family member or close friend to house sit for us if we go away again, just in case neighbors feel like putting on an encore again. The next story is titled, Zebra Karen and Lawnmower Kevin. This happened around the year 2000. My husband and I owned a house that had 5 acres of yard and about 1/2 acre of woods. Now that sounds nice and all, but it was so much work. It also had a pool, and a goldfish pond in a garden area. We decided it was just too much work for us and we wanted to sell. We got in touch with a realtor, fixed a few things for easier resale, and started the process of leaving the house while people looked at it. We specifically didn't try for sale by owner because we didn't want to have to fool with prospective buyers. In walks Kevin and Karen. We had company over one afternoon to swim in the pool. This man decides to just walk up to us asking about the house. I am friendly but reserved because, well, I don't know him. I tell him to contact the realtor, that she has all of the info on the house and we are leaving everything up to her. This doesn't dissuade Kevin, oh no. He sticks around for a good half an hour walking around my yard and asking questions. He asks if the riding mower is included in the price, if a building in the woods is included, just on and on trying to make a deal with me. After explaining several times that the realtor is handling everything and to ask her those questions, I finally got him to leave. Apologizing to my company, I went back to enjoy my afternoon. I had a good laugh with hubby over this that evening, and he joked that I'd missed my calling and should be selling houses. The next day he shows up again, but with his wife Karen in tow this time. Unfortunately I didn't have company and had no excuse to ask them to leave. I still didn't invite them in. I noticed that this was twice they'd been there while hubby was at work. I just wonder if he had been recording me trying to bind me into something. Hubby was a lawyer, so I was always wary of these things. Paranoia? Who knows, probably. But better safe than sorry. These two gave me the creeps. He insisted on trying to make a deal with me. He was fixated on our lawnmower. He asked me to see it, asked all about it, and wanted to see inside our detached garage. You would have thought he had stashed stolen bank money in the tires, he wanted this mower so badly. He was being extremely pushy. Meanwhile, Karen was looking over the exterior of the house with that smug Karen look of what a piece of garbage, but it might be salvaged that Karens tend to have. Now she was the epitome of Karenhood. Overweight, 60s but thinks she's in her 30s, expensive clothes 2 sizes too small, thinks she's a new age shaman with the gaudiest jewelry I'd ever seen. She even had the turn of the century Karen hairstyle. She asks me if there are spirits in the house and could she bring a psychic over to inspect it before they buy it. Hard no to that request. Then she asked me if she can have our kitten we had just found and rescued from the side of the road. I say no, that my daughter has grown attached to it and we aren't giving him up. She argues that it's a spiritual cat and that it was out there so she could find it, therefore it was hers. I know, right? I tell them I have this thing I'm late for and have to leave. Now, I'm thinking I'm going to have to call the cops on these idiots before it's all said and done. I leave. They started popping by every day after this, but I wouldn't answer the door to them anymore. They caught me in the yard doing yard work. Did I mention this house was so much work? But I was able to escape into the house before they caught up to me. Another time I was driving home and didn't realize that crazy Karen and neurotic Kevin were behind me until it was too late. Cornering me in the driveway, I had to be firm with them this time. I told them once again that this is not a for sale by owner for a reason, and that people like them are the reason. I told them that we were in no hurry to sell the house and I wasn't in the mood to deal with them as I handed Kevin our realtor's card. I had picked up a few days earlier for this express reason. The how rude were said into a slammed door, right in their faces. I was done being polite to these people. It seemed to work, they didn't show up again unannounced. Hallelujah, I thought. Well, I celebrated too early. My realtor called me with a weird request. She wanted to show the house but said that the couple had requested that we stay for the walkthrough. Hubby and I shrugged and thought, sure, why not? You can see where this is going now, can't you? Sure enough, it was Karen and Kevin standing beside our realtor, with their "now you have to let us in" looks. Hubby and I just sighed and welcomed them in. This was the first time hubby had met the infamous duo and he was not impressed. We let our lovely realtor do what she does best and followed along for the ride. The whole time all I heard was, "Of course we will have to fix this and change that," basically snubbing their noses at everything in our home. Then came the deal making. Now, due to certain laws, we can't discriminate on who we sell the house to. Otherwise you bet those people would never set foot in that house again. But alas, stinking laws. They made their offer, which included us leaving quite a few of our possessions for their convenience, including that lawnmower. We told them over and over again that it was going with us, along with every other thing they demanded, and that our possessions weren't a part of the house. Kevin acted like the lawnmower was a make it or break it deal, but we still refused. We also refused their embarrassingly low offer price. Full price or no deal. We thought that maybe they'd go on about their merry way, but no. They must have really wanted our house, even though it was such a fixer-upper. Now our house was pretty normal. We had repaired anything that needed it, slapped paint where it was needed, and I thought we had done a pretty darn good job of decorating. We were also asking the full market value on the house and didn't feel the need to reduce the price. With a pool and detached garage, it was a pretty good deal and we were making a good amount of money from what we paid for it. So wouldn't you know it? They met all of our conditions and bought it. We moved out and they moved in. Should have been the end of it, right? Nope. 2 weeks after they moved in, I started getting calls from Karen. She tells me that she had had a psychic go through the house and that we had exactly 8 ghosts. 2 of which were Civil War spirits, and that there was a vortex in the basement. I'm like, really? Well, isn't that special? Big eye roll there. She again begs me for my daughter's kitten and explains how it's a gift that was meant for her and how could I not let her have her spirit kitty. I'm so over these people. Then she says that they're having problems with the pond filter and that I just had to come fix it. She bugged me for a few more days about it, so I gave in and told her I'd have a look at it. This was in the days before you could block a number or none of this business would have even happened. I went over there that afternoon, we hadn't moved far away, to look at the filter. The first thing I noticed was that they had painted the 2-story brick house maroon. Gag. And they just couldn't wait to show their upgrades they had put in. My mouth hit the floor when I walked in. It was the same shape as my old house, but that was it. There was a zebra stripped carpet in the main living room with blood red walls. To top it off, there was a naked painting of Karen, lounging Greek style, hanging over the fireplace. And it was recent. 60+ years of wrinkles and folds were there for all to see. She sure was a confident Karen. The zebra theme went all through the house. Zebra cushions, zebra statues, zebra paintings, more zebra carpet. Well, Karen likes zebras, I supposed. I was dumbfounded to say the least. The living room wasn't the end of it. The whole house looked like a freaking brothel. Their bedroom had Kama Sutra pics all over the walls. I was very glad that I hadn't eaten lunch yet. Her office where she did her meditations, or whatever the crap she did, looked like it came out of a Chinese bordello. There was such a mishmash of every religious symbol and saying under the sun. Now, if done in taste, it could be a very beautiful way of expression, but everything in that house clashed and assaulted the eyes. They were so proud. When I could finally get away and look at the pump and filter, the whole reason I was there, I saw that there wasn't a single thing wrong with it. It only needed to be cleaned. I explained the maintenance that was needed and told them goodbye. Karen said, "Well, aren't you going to fix it?" I laughed right in her face and told her no. You bought this house and all of the work that goes with it. No warranties, no take-backs, and definitely no yard service. Why do you think we sold this house in the first place? Way too much work. She just sputtered as I got in my car and drove my happy butt home. Thank goodness we never heard from these two again. Well, that's my Karen and Kevin story. Hope you enjoyed it, because I sure didn't as it was happening, but now I get a good giggle from it. The last story is titled, Complaining to Us About a Fire Pit. A bit of background. Our family has lived in our house for over 30 years. We have been through many neighbors due to the way the house next door was rebuilt. The house had a fire when we were younger and the construction company who rebuilt it rushed the job. Don't know how many problems it has. The house, since our old neighbors moved out, has went through 3 different families. The first 2 neglected problems the house had. Our current neighbors told us that there were a lot of problems with the house due to the way it was built and kept by previous neighbors. All I know is our original neighbors lived in it like a 3-family house and moved due to work, and one of the kids got married and started a family. The grandma who owned the house moved close to where her kids moved. Since they moved, we had one family who kept to themselves and we rarely saw them. The only time I heard about them was when a good family friend was doing a snow round. Our block is nice, we all play the beat each other to getting outside to snowblow the blocks surrounding us. My parents started it when they got their blower. They did the sidewalks of the area we live in, and the neighbors liked the idea and some started doing it too. Now no one, unless we know the person can't physically do it, touches driveways or the walkway up to the house. And this neighbor felt entitled to complain to our friend that she missed the inside of the driveway, like she was responsible for that part as well. They were doctors as far as I know and possibly had to move due to work. Then moved in the next entitled neighbors. The neighbors before our current ones had many different things going on, and one was they really liked to smoke weed. We knew it was their choice and didn't judge. There was one problem. We had to deal with the smell constantly coming into our house, but never said anything to the neighbors as far as I know. My parents had old diffusers going constantly. Well, my parents a few years prior built a fire pit, and in the summer usually we would have friends over for a fire pit. No one ever complained, and a few neighbors have fireplaces and fire pits in their backyard. That night my dad decided to burn one of the nicer smelling woods we had, and things were going great till our entitled neighbor came out. He began complaining to my father, saying the fire pit was making his house smell like smoke. The way he complained was making it seem like he was demanding we cease the fire pit. Now my father is understanding to many things, and if there is a legit problem he would rectify it without an issue. The way he said it made my dad respond calmly and as polite as he could. He said, "We don't complain to you for making our house smell like pot." The entitled neighbor, offended, said we don't smoke pot while he was lighting up a joint in front of my dad. My dad then walked away and we continued to enjoy the fire pit. After these entitled neighbors moved, we got new neighbors. We still don't know much about them. We do know that one has been doing every now and then something shady where a person shows up. They walk around the block. We are a house at the end of block and we have cameras due to reports we heard of people trying to break into some houses, and there is some sort of exchange before the people leave. They do smoke as well, but we don't say anything to them out of respect. Thanks for listening.